Hey everyone. In this video, I'm going to be sharing 3 reasons you should contribute to open source. The term open source refers to something people can modify and share because its design is publicly accessible. The software we as developers rely on are all open source. Imagine if we had to pay for all the software. Contributing to open source can be daunting at first, and trust me, the initial hurdles to contributing to open source can be significant. But after overcoming these roadblocks, I couldn't recommend it more. And the earlier you start, the more you benefit from the progress you can make as a software developer. So in this article, I'm just going to describe 3 practical reasons you should contribute to open source, and I'll also show you how to make your first contribution and general tips for using GitHub. Contributing to open source teaches you how to use GitHub like a pro. GitHub is the home of open source, so it makes sense that contributing to open source is fundamentally about learning how to use GitHub. Now, the first step in making your first contribution is to find a repository. Now, the repository I contributed to first is a package called scikit-learn. Scikit-learn is a machine learning library which I often use, so it only made sense for me to make that my first contribution, since it was a library I was already acquainted with. But if you don't have a library in mind or a repository in mind, you can always find a topic you're interested in by going to github.com/topics. And let's actually go there right now. So here is the page. So let's say I'm interested in machine learning. I can scroll down to the machine learning topic, and you can see there are a bunch of topics here on various software engineering domains. So if I was interested in deep learning, I could also go there. Docker. If I want to contribute to a particular application or applications that use a particular service, I got Firebase there, Flask, Firefox. Firefox is open source, by the way. The Firefox browser is open source. Um, so let's scroll over to machine learning. It's going to be right here. There we go, machine learning. I can click that topic, and GitHub will show me a bunch of repositories belonging to this topic. So you can see here we have about 120,000 topics under 120,000 machine learning repositories. So I have here TensorFlow, Hugging Face, PyTorch, Keras, scikit-learn, and the list goes on. So if you're looking for a repository which you want to contribute to, find a topic you're interested in and browse the repositories, and I'm sure you'll find something that you'll be interested in contributing to. Now, before you can start contributing, it's really important that you get acquainted with the repository you are contributing to. And each repository will be different. So you need to really invest the time in understanding the structure of that repository which you're contributing to, the rules and guidelines of that repository, and each repository will have its own nuances. So once you've chosen a repository, some of the things you can do is read its documentation. So for example, if I was going to scikit-learn, I can click scikit-learn, and I can read its readme.markdown file, and this will tell me a bit more about the repository. And another thing I can do is go to the Issues tab, and the Issues tab will tell me what kind of problems there are with this library and how I might be able to contribute to this library. Most open source repositories also have detailed instructions for how you should actually contribute to a package. And this is usually found as a contributing.markdown file. So I'm not sure if scikit-learn has this file. Okay, it does. Yeah. So contributing.markdown. So this is a file which just tells you a bit more about how you should contribute, rules and guidelines for contributing. And not every repository will have this file, but if the repository does have this file, then you should definitely give it a read. Okay, now it's time to make your first mark. Contributing to a repository doesn't just mean contributing code or documentation. It can also be things that are as simple as liking or upvoting a comment, contributing to a discussion, starting a new issue, and sending a pull request. Now, repository maintainers will often label issues which new contributors should tackle first using the Good First Issue label. So what we can do is we can go to the Issues tab. So I'll go to the Issues tab, and we'll use the label Good First Issue. So you can see here I have that label Good First Issue. If I just click Enter, I'll get all the issues that the maintainers recommend newcomers and new contributors should take a look at. So let's take a look at this one. So you can see here that this is a documentation related issue, and we have a description of the issue, and we can see that people are contributing to it and people are engaging with it. So open source contribution is all about contributing to code and collaborating with other developers. So you can see here everyone's working on specific subtasks of the problem, and that's how these open source libraries are actually developed. Of course, you can create a new issue if you have a particular bug, if you found a bug in the library, or you have a particular new feature which you would like to be added. You can always create a new issue by clicking this button over here. Okay, now what if I want to contribute code? So I actually want to change the code base itself. Well, to do this, you need to send a pull request, and the naming here is a little bit interesting because okay, the reason it's called a pull request is because you are requesting the repository to pull from your contributions. Now, I guess from a repository perspective, this makes sense, but from a developer perspective, it would be more like a push request. You're sending a push request to the library because you're pushing up your code. But it's called a pull request, so it is what it is. To actually contribute code or documentation, you need to learn how to send a pull request. And to send a pull request, you first need to fork the repository. So this just means copying the code base to your local machine. You need to add the changes to your repository, and you need to submit a pull request. Now, the tool you use to do this is called Git, and Git is a command line tool which enables you to is basically a version control tool. It enables you to enables you to basically version your code, and it's used for contributing to open source as well. So this is a great video which I actually used to make my first contribution, and he walks through how to make your first contribution, all the steps required. So I'll put the link to this video in the description box below if you would like to make your first contribution. Now, once you've sent a pull request, it needs to be validated. These repository maintainers aren't just going to let you push up any old code that you would like to have. It needs to be validated because you could be pushing up anything to the code base. And they need to make sure that this code actually solves the issue that it's intending to solve, and also just to make sure that the code is clean. Each repository will have its own verification process, but usually pull requests go through multiple automated tests, and they also need to be validated by a maintainer before the pull request is merged. Collaborating with fellow developers and the community. Contributing to open source gives you the opportunity to collaborate with fellow developers. Now, it's really easy to get stuck in our own, little world of software development where we're just creating our own projects and not really interacting with the developer community. But interacting and collaborating with the developer community actually has several benefits, not only to the community, but also to you. On a superficial level, contributing to open source and working with other developers integrates you into the developer community. And the network you establish in this community can open the doors to exciting opportunities. Additionally, the fact that your work is going to be assessed by others automatically forces you to write clean code, and the feedback you receive from fellow developers directly improves your skills as a programmer. Further, contributing to open source gives you the chance to share your knowledge. Whether you're helping out a fellow developer on an issue, or you're adding context to a technical discussion, everything you input into the codebase is valued by all other developers. Finally, and probably most importantly, you're giving back to the community. It's no joke that we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Contributing to open source can be your way of saying thank you to all the projects that make the world go round. Show off your skills. Contributing to open source gives you a chance to prove yourself as a competent software developer. The best way to validate your programming skills is to see if fellow developers will accept your code. But even more than that, contributing to open source is a way of showing that you are actively involved in the developer community. It also shows that you know how to handle real-world code bases, which is a green flag for employers who are assessing your programming ability. Additionally, contributing to open source often requires you to use a diverse array of technologies. So it's a good opportunity to show off your expertise and upskill in areas you're not comfortable with. That's it for this article. I hope you learned something new and you're ready to make your first open source contribution. Again, I'll put that video link in the description box below, which will take you through all the steps you need to to contribute to your first open source repository. Um, Hope you liked the video. Hope you got something valuable from it. Smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe to get updated on when new content comes out. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.